guys, my name is Liam Jenkins and welcome to another video here on Philly Sports Network. First things first, please ignore the hairline, alright? I've tried to cut my own hair, it's gone horrifically, I've tied it back, I don't know what's going on, I need quarantine to end, my allergies are playing up, I look like a zombie. We'll get through it, alright? It's looked worse. Fridays for me are typically a time where I upload a 10-minute segment from my podcast that day, and I didn't feel comfortable uploading a raw football podcast in light of everything that's going on. And something happened last night that I did want to talk about, but it deserves its own video. And I'm going to get to why a little bit later. But for those of you who are maybe unaware or haven't been keeping an eye on the news, there's been a massive uproar in the city of Minneapolis after the total unjustified and horrific killing of George Floyd. Someone who, under police custody, was essentially choked of his last breath. And it's disgusting, it's horrible, and it's left the world in a total state of shock. And this may have been a step too far now, because I think people have tried for years to protest peacefully. We've seen people of influence like Colin Kaepernick take knees. We've seen people refuse to stand for the anthem throughout the NFL. They've tried the peaceful route, and what we've seen over the last few days are riots and lootings and just a pouring out of emotion and anguish and anger that this is still happening, that people in black communities across America are still being profiled, murdered, incarcerated for nothing else than the colour of their skin, and it is sickening, to say the least. And I just wanted to take a moment to say that we at Philly Sports Network stand with you if you're in one of those communities, and this is why we're making this video. Because last night, one man who I did not expect to make a statement on this came out on social media and tweeted his understanding, his concern, and his thoughts on a truly tragic event. And that man was Carson Wentz. Someone that grew up in North Dakota State, a very rural part of America that is dominated by the white demographic, and he may not have the deepest understanding of the difficulties that black communities undergo each day, or what it's like to be profiled and pulled over at the side of the road. He doesn't get that. And when you see him tweet a statement, there's that natural hesitance of, oh God, okay, it's a white man in the NFL from a rural background talking about this crime which he doesn't really have a place to talk about, and he comes out with the most well-worded, grounded, humble approach that I've seen. And it was shortly followed by Zach Ertz, who did exactly the same thing. Both statements will be on the screen right now, in case you haven't read them or just wanted a refresher, but I adore this. I think this is exactly what the world needed right now. And this is why it's so important. I mean, Carson Wentz is 27 years old, a white male from North Dakota. That's everything you need to know. There are plenty of black athletes, black people of influence who are understandably talking out about this in a very aggressive manner and trying to voice every bit of emotion they can. To see a white person do that is eyebrow raising, and it's oddly reassuring, I think. And I look across the world and I think that you need that. You needed someone to step up and say, this isn't right. This isn't good. Because the problem that I feel, not aligning myself with Wentz here, but as a British kid from a small town in England where it's not culturally diverse, you see many of those same horrible morals from the generations above that run down. Whether that comes to political voting or just stances on immigration, whatever it may be, you see that and you understand it's not right. But the reason that I feel many white people don't talk out about this sort of thing is for fear of backlash from the communities they've grown up in, from friends, from family, from whatever it may be. I mean, put it this way, I've been fairly vocal about it on social media over the last couple of days. I've lost about 20 to 30 Twitter followers, I think, just because I voiced my opinion. And people get scared to do that. But I think the fear of wanting to talk out about a topic like this and the repercussions that that may bring stops people from doing it. And if you're not going to speak up when something is clearly wrong and say, hey, that's not right, that needs to stop, let's do something about this and come together, then you're just as much a part of the problem as you aren't a part of the solution. I know for a fact there are people who watch this channel and beloved members of our community who are in Minneapolis right now and experiencing this firsthand and are terrified and angry and scared. And I hate that. And I want to help that in any way I can. And to see a white quarterback step up and make a statement like that to say, hey, I don't necessarily know what these guys are going through on a daily basis, but it's not right. I'm sending prayers to everyone. It's despicable, and let's move forward. That, I think, is going to inspire a lot of people, and I wish more white athletes would do it. I don't want to single anyone out. I do not want to sit here and say, yeah, well, this white athlete didn't do it, or this white athlete didn't say a word. But Carson Wentz is not the most prolific white athlete in the NFL, in my opinion. There are several others you can turn towards. Again, I don't want to single anyone out. One person I would maybe look to in an instance like this, Christian McCaffrey, because of just how much influence he has over young people who love his play. Radio silence on Twitter, not a word spoken. But Carson Wentz, who is essentially grown up as an Eagles quarterback in a locker room of players like Malcolm Jenkins and Torrey Smith, who have been very, very strong in the fight against police brutality in America, you can see that influence rubbing off. And it takes a leader to step up in the face of adversity where he knows he may catch flack from his local communities, from people he maybe grew up with that don't uphold those morals, to stand up and say, no, that's wrong. I don't relate to it. I've not experienced it. I can't imagine what that's like. But it's wrong, and it's sickening, and it needs to end, and we've got to push through this. It's maturity beyond his years, it's humility beyond his years, and while it is a massive signal and beacon of light to a community that is aching and hurting and impoverished with pain right now, it's also a beacon to white people to stand up and do exactly the same thing and say that's not right. Because if one person reads that tweet and goes and says something similar, or goes, do you know what? Well, now Carson said it, I feel comfortable saying it. And they go out and give their opinion, and that influences someone else, and you raise awareness. And I know that this isn't a sports video, and we're not talking Eagles All 22. And I, for instance, again, as a British white male who grew up in a tiny little town that is really not culturally diverse at all, I don't know the struggles that go on in America every day, and it breaks my heart to know that people I know, people I call colleagues, people I call friends, have to experience that. I hate it, and I feel like if I've got a platform of influence at least, or there is one person that watches this video or reads an article on this topic and says, do you know what? He's got a point. Do you know what? I feel empowered now to stand up and speak up on this. Then I'm doing my job, because as someone that has a platform of nearly 20,000 subscribers, if I just use that as a way of building my career, as a way of making my month-to-month income, as a way of creating content, I'm not doing anything for you. I'm not helping a world that is hurting through this situation, and so many thousands and thousands of you who are going to be affected by this. Like, I'm doing a disservice to you. And I wanted to take a few minutes just to talk about that and say, look, we are with you in this, and there will be people that bite back and say, how can you excuse the riots, or why did they do this? Like, I don't have the answers. I'm not that guy. I'm just a British kid that is hurting as much as the rest of the world right now at the events that are tearing through America, about the ignorance of a president who is sending in military guard and saying when the looting starts, the shooting starts. That's disgusting from a world leader. If that happened in England, there will be riots over that alone. I know that for sure. And I'd like to think I'd be a part of them, if I'm brutally honest. That's disgusting. And you don't have to agree politically with someone to understand that what happened to George Floyd was wrong. To understand that what has happened to millions of black people for generations is wrong, and it has to end. And the fact that Carson Wentz has referenced institutionalized racism, to acknowledge the fact that this has come from the top down, not the bottom up, to say that we are with you in this fight, is massive. To know that Zach Ertz has followed suit, to know that Boston Scott then quote tweeted it, Chris Long, Torrey Smith, Dan Orlovsky, prominent names have retweeted that and shared it and acknowledged it. That goes a long way. And I think that Philadelphia is so lucky to have players like Ertz, like Wentz, who want to lead, who want to make a positive difference, who have charity foundations, who will go the extra mile to make sure their communities will get through this kind of suffering. And not every team has. Like, how many white quarterbacks are in the NFL? How many have spoken about this? How many have gone to Twitter to write a statement and give a view in a time where everyone's hating everyone? Everyone is at each other's throats and trying to cancel each other for having an opinion or trying to share something. Like, we're all fighting the same fight. We all want to be on an even page. We all want to lift each other up, regardless of ethnicity, of skin colour, of religion, of gender. We all want to be equal and empower those around us. We shouldn't be trying to tear people down who, while we may misalign views, are all fighting the same cause. And for someone like Wentz, like Ertz, to step up and do that, it's lucky. To have a team run by someone like Jeffrey Lurie, who, when the anthem protests were going on, stood with his players and said, no, whatever they decide, so be it. Like, I'm with them. I don't know where the world goes from here. I'm just a British kid who talks about the Eagles for a living and wants to make some kind of impact with the platform we have. But I know that so long as people like Carson Wentz, like Zach Ertz, are willing to speak their minds, are willing to share their opinions in times of adversity where they may catch heat for it from others, then progress is being made. In terms of raising awareness to other white people that you have to speak up to make a difference. That this won't go away by acknowledging it's not my problem. You're part of the bigger problem. Like, you have to step up and say, this isn't right, we're with you. And I think the Eagles are so lucky to have players like Ertz and Wentz, and that they are examples for other white athletes in the NFL, for other white quarterbacks in the NFL, for other white athletes across the board, be it hockey, baseball, basketball, whatever, to speak up, to use their platform of potentially millions and millions and say, this isn't right, we can get through this together. Philadelphia, a city that is so rich in culture, is very lucky to have two very socially aware people, Ertz and Wentz, who are willing to step up and acknowledge an issue like this. An issue that they have been brought awareness to in ways that maybe we can't imagine, from people like Malcolm Jenkins and Torrey Smith, to use their platform to have that torch that has been passed to them, to share that knowledge, to share that influence and say, speak up. Cry for you all to take to Twitter and suddenly give your opinions. But I think it's important to recognise just how impactful those statements were. And the team is very lucky to have leaders like that. And if that is a symbol of what their leadership is like in the locker room, then I see no further question at all as to how someone can criticise Carson Wentz's leadership or character or anything of that nature. He has done nothing but prove himself as a humble leader, someone that thinks of everyone else around him first, and is very aware of cultural issues. And I think that goes a long way in unifying a locker room. We've had this before with religion, with his AO1 stuff, and how a lot of people in that locker room may not be religious, or they may not buy in to what Carson Wentz and a lot of those guys are unifying together to rejoice in and celebrate and live their life by, but there's a mutual respect there. And that has now matured into someone that is ready to step up, take it one step further, and align himself with communities that he may not relate to very well because he spotted an injustice and wants to make a difference. And that is very important. I think I'm probably repeating myself at this point. Thank you for taking the time to watch this. I will leave some links down below to some Minnesota charities if anyone does want to donate at all. From myself, Liam Jenkins. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Liam Jenkins PSN. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you are in Minneapolis or anywhere like Louisville that is enduring these riots and this pouring of emotion right now, please stay safe. We'll be back with another Eagles video soon.